So I want to talk about awareness today. I've talked about it many, many times, but we've been doing a lot of breath meditation, working on the concentration. We do a little zoom in and zoom out where we're focused in on the breath, and then we focus in on the whole body. We've definitely touched in with awareness a couple times as we've been doing this over the last 3 months. But I want to emphasize how important it is to start bringing at least the concept or the idea of awareness into your mindfulness practice. When we concentrate on the breath, we start by using our attention to focus in on the breath or whatever else we're focusing in, right? We take our attention and we put it on that object. Our attention is narrow. It may be bouncy at first, bouncing all around. So it might not feel narrow. It might feel like our mind, our attention is all over the place. It's very wide, but it's actually very narrow moment by moment. And what we're trying to do in that practice is still that attention so that it doesn't bounce around as much and it stays on the object. Since our life is made up of where our attention is, this gives us a lot of power, and it starts to give us some peace that we haven't had before. Because we're able to take our attention and see something, even if it's just the smallest thing like our breath, start to see it as it is or closer, and drop all the other things our attention likes to go to, which are mostly problems, right? And this is where a lot of the relief of mindfulness comes at first for people. It can also become very useful as you use mindfulness to attend to very particular things like this sadness in my heart or these thought patterns I have. If you attend to those with mindfulness, then again, you still your attention on the sadness in your heart and you start to be able to see it as it is, to get out of the way and let it play out as it is. They're very useful. This is a very useful aspect of being able to control our attention. And ultimately, if we completely still our attention and completely see what we're looking at without any interference from conceptualization and judgment, with full acceptance, as we've been talking about, then attention dissolves and we get access to a different aspect of our nature. So that is a short story about how the mindful path works. But that can be a long path, that route. And I want us to start from the beginning to have access to another aspect of our nature, a deeper aspect of our nature. Because it speeds up the path and it also makes it less painful, makes it less, like it causes less suffering. And that is to start to have access to our awareness. And these are easily identifiable things in our experience: attention and awareness. Excuse me. Let's begin by thinking about the field of awareness as opposed to attention. I know those on Zoom have probably heard me say this so many times, but I can't really overstate how important it is to remind ourselves how our experience works. As we sit here, there is a field of awareness. What is in your field of awareness? Well, in your field of awareness is, let's just talk visually first, everything all the colors that are coming in and hitting your eyeballs right now and popping up in consciousness. Now, you may not be able to name all of them. You're not able to tell me what everything in your field of awareness is right away because your attention isn't focused on everything in your field of awareness. Right? So I'm sitting here and there's all these things coming in. I can sense it all. If I start to move my attention around, I can start to name them. So I sense the mirror over there. That's my attention goes to the mirror. I sense the tree over there. It's in my peripheral vision, but I can still see some of the green and some of the shakiness, right? There's everything in the screen here. But so the field awareness is very wide in terms of the number of things it's taking in. We almost never notice, now those who've been meditating for a while do, but for the average person, you almost never notice the field of awareness. You're always tuned in with your attention on some piece of the field of awareness. Again, you could be bouncing around, so you're focusing on a number of different things over a series of moments. But at any given moment, you're picking out one little piece of it, and you're using your attention to activate your mind with respect to that piece of awareness. You're going, that little piece of awareness, that's a mirror. I can now name it, and I can have thoughts about it, and da 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 da. I've carved that mirror, which is, by the way, not a mirror. It's a in my example, it's a yellow frame with some silvery reflections and all that. It's just part of the field of awareness. Do it right now. Pick out something from your field of awareness and attend to it. I'm just going to pick out this little red in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. It's the name of a set of books, and just focused on it. It was already there, right? It was already sitting in awareness. That was the only way I could attend to it. But I hadn't noticed it. I didn't have it in my mind. I wasn't thinking about it until I put my attention on it. So you see how different these two things are? There is this reality, which is all the sensory information that's coming in and popping into consciousness. And that's huge, massive amount of data. And then there's our attention, which is actually very narrow, and in any given moment can only pick out a small amount of data. I've taught this before in terms of zoom in and zoom out, and you can do that here. You can zoom in on the little bit, and then you can zoom out to take in the whole experience. And of course, it's not just visual. In any given moment in awareness, there's all the feelings in your body that are popping up into a consciousness. There's all the sounds in your environment that are popping into consciousness. There's also the internal thoughts and emotions that are popping into consciousness. So the field of awareness is very broad, and it's multisensory, and it's all going on all the time. I'm talking about this this is not, I'm not talking about anything transcendent even right now. I'm just talking about this is a normal everyday fact of our experience. So one way at first is just to think about it in terms of zoom in and zoom out. If you want to start feeling into awareness, you're sort of zooming out your attentional lens, right? So it's like if you wanted to do it visually, you open your eyes and you sort of blur it a little bit so you don't pick out anything. And you just get the whole thing like it's one big painting, right? One big abstract painting. You do that so that the mind doesn't want to immediately start doing what it does, which is use your attention to start naming things and organizing things and looking for bad things and looking for good things. That's just a practice, by the way, right? It's not required. Awareness can have thoughts in it. But to start to get a sense of it, we blur, we try to sit back a little bit and just take it in all at once. Take in the field of experience all at once. And at first you try it with one sense, and then you start adding, you try it with another sense, and then you try it with multiple senses at once. Before I talk about why this is important and useful, just take into account, this is not something most of us ever notice unless it's pointed out. It's so strange that we don't, because it's so present. It's the most present thing there is. It's what we deal with all the time. But we're so caught in the narrative, right, of the mind going, this thing and this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and this thing, this good thing, this bad thing, this good thing, this bad thing. It's like if you go for a hike on a beautiful mountain trail with these beautiful vistas, but you're doing your taxes in your head, right? You don't see anything. It's there in awareness, but you're not, your attention has gone into like, I need to write off my chocolate eclairs. I hope no. Excuse me. No, I hope no IRS men are listening. Because they'll know about my chocolate eclair write-off. Okay, so I hope you can get a taste of the difference between attention and awareness. Some of you have more than a taste. I know that. I know that we've spent more time in it. So one thing we're practicing in mindfulness that I talk about a lot, and you've heard me go over many times, is acceptance. We are practicing in mindfulness. We are using our attention to concentrate on a particular part of our experience. For recently, we've been focusing on our breath, and we are practicing acceptance with respect to that object and any distractions that come up. Acceptance is a way of letting the object be. Some of the things we say about that is we want to see it as it is. So no interpretations. We just want to see the object as it is. So the breath, that's part of acceptance. We want to let go of judgment. So we want to see it be independent of our judgments of whether it's good or bad, whether we like it or don't like it. We want to let go of our stories and conceptualizations. We want to let go of any doing we have with respect to any attempt to fix or change the object of our experience. These are all aspects of acceptance as we've been discussing it. So here's one reason that awareness is so useful and so important, is that awareness already has all those qualities. Let's focus in on one of them. If we have time, I'll go into more. So when we focus in on the field of awareness, notice how the field of awareness is not picking and choosing what is more important, what is better or worse. Right? It's just taking in all, let's just do visual, all the colors. And before the mind gets involved, before attention gets involved, it's all equal. Awareness doesn't have any judgment in it. Do the same thing with your body. The field of awareness of your feelings in your body. There's parts that are uncomfortable. There's parts that are emotional. attention naturally comes with judgments of those parts. We can, through practice, clean our attention, purify our attention of judgment, but naturally it comes with judgment. It's choosing, it focuses in on the painful spots or the really emotional spots. But awareness doesn't do that. The field of awareness takes in the whole body equally. One way you can tell you're tuning into the field of awareness is if it's taking in the whole body equally. If it's not, then you're probably stuck in a version of attention. And the slight tingle on your big toe is as important as the slight tingle of sadness in your chest. That's awareness. It's just fine. These are all the things that are coming in. Awareness is like, this is what's here. This is what's here. This is what's here. See, awareness is already doing what we're practicing in mindfulness. I've been listening to some Zen koans. And after having already sort of awakened to a lot of the things in those koans, it's really enjoyable to listen to them. I remember being a kid or like high school or college and reading them and going, what is going on here? Like, this is nothing, like it meant nothing to me, sound of one hand clapping. You're just like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Right. And now it's like, oh yeah, I get it. One of them that I heard, and it really applies to what we're talking about now, is, and again, I don't remember the story, so please, I'm not a Zen teacher. I may be interpreting it all wrong. It's possible, but I'll use it today because I think it's useful. Is I don't remember the story exactly, but some emperor or some Zen master or something wanted them to build him a seamless tomb. A seamless tomb. As with no edge, no parts, right? Just one part. And you just think about that, and that's what awareness is. Tomb may sound a little negative, but the seamless part, right? When I'm saying that it doesn't have any preference for any part of awareness, of awareness doesn't have any preference for any part of itself, right? It's actually, the deeper part of that is it's not making any distinction. There actually are no edges. There's no parts. Awareness is one whole experience. Now I'm trying to help you get a taste of it by like carving out the visual. But the truth is the visual, just like the mirror and the tree are both arising in awareness equally in my visual field, the mirror, the tree, and my body are also all arising in awareness equally. There's no lines between them in awareness. Awareness does not prefer feeling to seeing or vice versa. You just think about, if you want to use the koan a little bit, you just think about how your experience is like a seamless tomb. Okay, so that got a little more advanced there at the end, but I want to make sure that we understand the simple distinction between attention and awareness, and then noticing how awareness has these qualities of acceptance built into it. Awareness just takes in whatever's coming up. It has no judgment. Because it has no judgment, it has no urge to fix or change or try to improve. It has no doing in it. Awareness is not an actor, not an agent. Awareness doesn't have any desires. Desires arise in awareness, but they are equal to all other sensations. Awareness doesn't have any beliefs. Beliefs arise in awareness, but they're equal to all other thoughts, sounds, and feelings. So awareness is already in a state of radical acceptance. You don't have to do anything to get to radical acceptance. You just have to let go into awareness. Now, the habit of attention is strong and powerful. So that's why we practice. But if you can notice the distinction, or today, or any day, then you have a doorway into practicing. The other thing is you can see that attention is arising in awareness as well. So if I focus in on a part of on the candle in my screen, I could get lost in the candle, which could be fine depending on a certain kind of practice. But I can also notice I'm focused on the candle and notice that that's happening in awareness. So awareness is bigger than attention. Awareness is more fundamental than attention. Let's say it that way, right? Attention can come and go and awareness remains. So the seamless tomb is also in time, right? It's not just in space, it's also in time. There's no difference between past, present, and future in awareness. Attention arises in time, awareness just sits there. It's really useful, some would say incredibly important, to start to get a taste of awareness as you practice so that you can continue doing your mindfulness meditation, but rather than doing it from attention, you're starting to do it more and more from awareness. That is, you're starting to allow that practice to happen inside of awareness. That is, you're starting to see yourself less as the meditator, the person that is deciding to focus on X and then trying really hard to accept. And you start to see yourself more as awareness, which already accepts all of that and doesn't need to make any effort. And this is true, right? When you start attending to something, you're like, I'm the one attending, right? There's a close correlation between attention and your idea of yourself. Who's attending to the taxes? I am. Who is worried about whatever? Who is cooking dinner? Who is meditating? There's a tight conceptual connection between the doer, attender, the person in attention, and the idea of the self. As we start to realize that the attention comes and goes, but the self does not, we realize that the self is not attention. Chris is not, Chris is attention. The sense of self comes from awareness. It comes from our sense of consciousness. But that's a very different type of self. In many ways, as you look closely, it's a type of non-self, to use Buddhism, or a type of transcendent self, with capital S, to use other terminology. It's a self that is previous to any of your memories, any of your desires, any of your beliefs. It's a self that's previous to any of your history. It's previous to any of your problems. It's a self that's permanent and unchanging. At least in some sense, permanent and unchanging in some sense. This is why you'll hear people say it's that which is never born and never dies, that kind of thing. Today, you don't have to think of that in any super crazy sense, although the experience of it is pretty intense, is pretty revelatory, but you can just think of it in normal everyday language. Yeah, my awareness, the only thing that's not changing is my awareness. My awareness is here. What's in awareness is changing. But the sense of the seamless tomb, seamless tomb, by the way, is the direct description of one of the ways I've experienced it. I remember this honestly was only this clear of an experience was only a very short way I experienced awareness. I usually experience, but you can have an experience, and it's described many times, of just sort of reality being like a diamond, a clear diamond. Just perfectly still, all of reality, even when stuff's moving around in it, it's perfectly still, because awareness is what's fundamental. And awareness doesn't move. It's not making any efforts. It's not pushing or pulling or carving off or making any judgments. It's taking it all in wholly. So we're going to sit now. I just want to say one last thing. The reason it's the acceptance part of mindfulness meditation becomes exponentially easier when you start to get access to the awareness. Once you get access to awareness, then lots of difficult things can move through very quickly, because rather than having to go, okay, now I'm going to accept this one. And okay, now I'm going to accept this one, right? And because that's like every time it's kind of like, all right, I know I'm supposed to accept. I know I'm supposed to accept. It's like an effort, but awareness does it automatically. And we can't ultimately clear out the store of healing that needs to be cleared out with a constant effort. The effort, in fact, is a kind of non-acceptance, right? So by getting access to awareness, we free ourselves up of a lot of, it makes it less likely that we'll get stuck anywhere. It really will. It does. Because things are just allowed to move through awareness. So please reach out if you have any questions about that. Obviously, we'll have question and answer later, but it's an important part of practice, at least the way we teach it.